Yes. Hi, everyone. So we are again here. It's nice Friday today, and we have a guest in our studio, and it's our great support person in the UK, or also for other our English-speaking customers in other countries. So we're offering initial consultation for both bariatric and nutrition questions with Vandana Patel. She's first of all certified nutrition, and she's also both bariatric and pre-bariatric surgery coach. And Vandana, you're also, I know you're a member of different professional organizations, obesity and metabolic diseases, and nutrition and dietitian. And you've been working on NHS as a post-bariatric consultant and nutrition specialist for many, many years. And I'm very happy to work with you. I'm very satisfied with your support and advice, and we have a very good relationship. And I hope our patients also find it useful and helpful for the post-bariatric journey. So I would like just to introduce Vandana.
Hello, Ilva. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you, Ilva. It's lovely to see you after such a long time, because I know you've been in lockdown just like us. But thank you very much for inviting me to your private group to share both of our knowledge, because, at the end of the day, we both have the patient's interest at heart, because we want them to get the best results after they've had weight loss surgery. And that it's not easy. Support is essential, and it's great that we're a team and we can support your patients.
Yes, and maybe you can tell about your experience and about those most common issues that patients have to learn before and after the surgery, those issues they have to know that they will have to change. What are the most important? Maybe you can count some.
Well, I'll tell you, I know you've explained who I am, but I'm a registered dietitian, which is very different. So I'm a registered dietitian and I'm also a nutritionist, and I've been in this industry for about 28 years. And as Ilva said, worked both in the NHS and private sector, but now just only privately, because I really want to focus on supporting patients that are having surgery abroad or that need support. But over the last 10 years, I've been doing more bariatric pre and post surgery support. And what I've noticed is that weight is a massive issue, and it's not always related to food, and I always say, as part of my offering, it's not what you eat, it's why you eat. And that is something really powerful. And every patient must understand that obesity isn't always their fault. There's a number of things that could be making you, causing problems with your weight, and I will go into that. But just by that comment, it leads me nicely onto the problems that weight loss surgery patients need to solve or improve before or after weight loss surgery. And first of all, you've got to meet criteria when it comes to weight loss surgery. So it's 35 with health issues, or over 40 with health issues, without health issues. And to reach that point in your life to require surgery doesn't mean it's the cheat's way out. Okay, and you must understand that and respect that some of us are more prone to being overweight, and in fact dieting can create that problem with becoming overweight. So when you go for surgery, all of you would have tried to attempt to lose weight, and that's really important. And you would have tried and not succeeded, and it becomes a bit of a pattern. So this is why you're here, looking to have weight loss surgery, or you may have had it already. But before you have surgery, do as much research as possible. I really would really encourage you to do that. Speak to other patients, come and join Ilva's group, come and join my group, contact us, speak to us, because it's really important to speak to not just other patients, do your own research, but speak to people like Ilva or myself to really get the truth behind weight loss surgery, because we'll be very honest about it. And I personally believe before surgery, it's really important to tell our patients that it's all about manage your expectations and understanding what weight loss surgery is going to do for you. It is a tool, okay, and it does 30% of the work. The patient and good aftercare support, so that's people like Ilva and myself, do the 70% with you. And that includes emotional eating. Now, emotional eating covers an umbrella of comfort eating, eating when you're stressed, eating when you're lonely, eating when you're bored, binging, craving food. You know, it covers a whole umbrella of emotions, you know, and ideally this needs to be addressed pre-surgery. And I think that's really important, really important.
Yes, I wanted to add that was today's issue, to speak about this emotional eating, all things, grazing, binge eating, everything. And we all already understand that these are psychological reasons for people to go there and to start there. So can you give some advice how to dig the roots of this problem, how to understand them, which is the point when people like go by this and how they don't realize that this is the point they have to find, and how easy is it to find point why you're doing this?
Before I answer that question, I think it's really important to actually understand why people become overweight and obese, because I really feel we need to get the foundations right before we go on to the emotional eating, and it's to help you members out there to understand, why do we have a problem with obesity? You know, we've got so much nutrition knowledge out there on the internet, but what is it that's causing, you know, yourself to be overweight? You know, and part of it will be emotional eating, and that is something that we need to address, and I'll go through that. But things like the environment, you know, our supermarkets in the UK are open 24 hours a day. Now, you know, 10, 15 years ago, you know, supermarkets are open, you know, 9 in the morning and closed at 6 o'clock. So after that, you couldn't get any food. You know, food is accessible. You just have to pick up the phone and call Deliveroo, and then you can get food from McDonald's, you know, your Indian takeaway, Chinese takeaway. You don't even have to cook anymore. So our environment has changed, and that's why we're seeing an increase in number of people becoming overweight. Portion sizes have increased. You know, in the 1950s, we all used to, not that I was around, and I don't think Ilva was around either in the 1950s. In the 1950s, the average plate size was actually 8 to 8.5 inches. Now we're telling our bariatric patients to eat off a 7-inch plate, and they don't think it's enough food. But in that day, that was the standard size plate. And now we eat off 12-inch plates, and they're a normal dinner plate. So plate size has increased. We're less active. We drive everywhere. We get the bus, we get the tube. We don't walk as much. There's also social influences, you know, society. We go to parties, we go to functions, we get free food at work. You know, things like that can also cause us to become overweight and emotionally. Genetics. We're doing more and more research, and we're finding out that people that are some people are more prone to being obese or overweight as they grow up. So there's something genetic there. You know, lifestyle factors. You know, if you're highly stressed, if you're not sleeping, you know, that can also affect your weight. Dieting. You know, dieting makes us overweight because we deprive our body of nourishment. And then what happens is we reduce our calories, our bodies start to work on starvation mode, our metabolism slows down. So that creates that can create, you know, weight problems. Medications, you know, a lot of the population, you know, have got problems with their mood. They might be on antidepressants. Some antidepressants make you put weight on. And steroids, you know, if you've got lots of inflammation in your body, you need to take steroids, and they increase your appetite, so you put on weight. You know, and then finally, emotional eating, which is what we're going to be discussing today, you know, and you know, and I really would say that when it comes to emotional eating, usually you need some form of professional support. You can read books, you can go on the Facebook groups, but whenever I'm on a Facebook group, I always say to my members is that how much support have those people had that are giving you advice? Why is it easy to go on a Facebook group to get advice, but you don't want to go to a health professional to get it? And sometimes it's because you're scared, okay? But, you know, emotional eating is a thing, okay? And I support patients, and I know Ilva's trying her best as well to support her members as well. But most emotional eating does stem from childhood. A lot of it stems from childhood. But if you think about it, emotional eating, like I said, is a number of things. It's comfort eating, eating when you're bored, lonely, overeating when you're sad. There's a lot of things. But, from the day that we're born, when a baby cries, what does the mother do? The mother puts the baby to the breast and soothes them with breast milk. So you are taught from birth some form of emotional eating. You cry, someone gives you food, okay? Or you cry, or someone gives you cuddle. So you're already taught from a very young age that if you cry, if you make certain sounds, you will be rewarded with food. Do you remember when you were younger and you went to the doctors? I remember going to the dentist many, many years ago, and just for having a tooth out or a filling, they gave me a lolly. Now, if you did that in this day and age, they'd be struck off. But can you see, we've been rewarded. These habits come from a very young age. And I think for women, I have a lot of my members that I work with have struggled with their weight from a very young age, from the age of 6, 7, or puberty, and during puberty, women put on weight, and it's alarming that, I've had clients that remember being told by their doctor or parents that they've got to go on a calorie controlled diet from a very young age because they thought they were gaining weight because they were eating too much, and this leads to that dieting, depriving yourself of the foods that you all enjoy, and it leads to secret eating, and that is part of the umbrella of emotional eating. So dieting results in depriving yourself from the foods that you enjoy, which results in you craving, binging, and gaining weight. And at the moment I support patients, and I know that Ilva does as well. And what's really important is about building the foundations to weight loss, and a better relationship with food when it comes to weight loss surgery. And ideally, we need to be focusing on this before you have the surgery. And this is the part that surgery can't control. I always say surgery does 30%. The other 70% is you, the client, the patient, with your aftercare support. And when it comes to your relationship with food, it's paramount, and this part is the surgery that, the surgery can't control it. So we need to identify the triggers to your eating, that you need to then practice to then manage those triggers. So I'll give you an example. So if you eat when you're bored, why do you do it? Possibly it's because you feel guilty about being bored. You need to be doing something, and that might stem from childhood. So what you do is you create a habit, and you've just created a habit to eat. So when you're bored, each time you're bored, you turn to food. But what you could do instead is, one, find something else to do when you're bored. So it could be something that's going to improve your health, like activity. Otherwise, find a distraction, okay? Distract yourself from food. So do a jigsaw, do a crossword, do a word search, painting, create a new habit. And that's really important. So it's identify, when it comes to emotional eating, you've got to identify what causes it. Then once you understand what the cause is, the trigger, as I call it, you then need to learn to manage it and create a new habit. And it isn't impossible. It's just that you don't know what you just don't know how to manage it. And that's the very basic, simple advice that I can give you.
Yes, but also how to learn those right foods to eat, because I think also this is about the food choice. If you're from childhood, I don't know, you're restricted from getting this burger or something, then you want it more and then you continue, or opposite, so you were eating unhealthy at home, or what's the problem? Why people think the French fries and these all things that these are good for like consuming at all? Right. So this is what sometimes when people read the recommendations for the post-surgery diet and pre-surgery diet and about the product values and everything, so they like saying, oh, there is nothing to eat in the end after the surgery. So they're worried about that they will not find anything good for them to eat. How how to teach these healthy eating choices. Why, for example, I even don't like the French fries, so I get sick from them. Of course, sometimes if they're around somewhere, I can take a couple of them, but I don't eat. This is not the type of food what I want to eat because I'm getting sick. Where is this thing where it starts to grow? So somehow how to learn this, to see these healthy food choices, what's good for your body.
Right. So this all again stems from childhood. Most, when we were a lot younger, and I think patients that are going through bariatric surgery now would be probably similar ages to ourselves, over, late 40s, early 50s. And what's in the era that we grew up, things like McDonald's and Burger King, burgers, it was just coming in. So it was exciting, the way it's marketed. You've got to eat it. The only people that have got money can afford this fast food, but now fast food is very affordable for everybody. And this is where we may have to agree to disagree. I don't talk about counting calories in my consultations. I don't talk about good and bad foods because we mustn't label, and this is what causes emotional eating. People think that certain foods are good for you and you label foods as good and you label foods as bad. And when you label foods as bad, they become more attractive. It's the same as depriving yourself of them. When you take something away or you label a food as bad, you want to eat it more. So, when people go for bariatric surgery, they will be having all these issues where they do label food as bad. And bad means I've got to have it. I need to eat it. I want to, it's the language that we talk. And this is where my NLP training comes in. It's a talking therapy. And it's the language that we use to talk, in therapy. And I always say, no, I don't talk about good and bad foods. I don't talk about calories because you've been there, you've done it, it hasn't worked. So why am I going to talk to you about restriction? I try and create a lifestyle plan, a strategy with my clients to say, right, what foods would be healthier? What's going to take you to your goal and what is going to take you away from your goal? And, I'll give you an example. Let's say, Ilva, let's say, Ilva, you're the healthier person. You've not got a problem with your weight, but you allow yourself to eat cookies. Okay. Now, Ilva and I have both baked cookies last night. This is just we haven't really, but I'm just giving you an example. Now, Ilva, when she's going to eat 2 cookies, but me, I've not had cookies for 2 weeks because I'm on a diet. So what am I going to do when it comes to the cookies? I'm probably not going to eat my breakfast. I'm not going to eat my lunch because I'm going to save all my calories to eat the cookies tonight. So what do? Now, Ilva's had 2. I'm going to eat 6. And I'm going to eat them really quickly and I'm going to feel really guilty. So then I'm going to go back and think, well, I might as well just finish off the other 6 cookies and I'll start my diet again tomorrow. And the reason why Ilva has eaten 2 cookies is because, 1, she doesn't label food as good and bad. 2, when she ate her 2 cookies, she sat down, she wasn't watching TV, she ate them slowly, she ate mindfully, okay? Now, when Van's been on a diet forever, Van thinks cookies are bad. When Van ate Van hadn't, and also when Ilva had her 2 cookies, she'd had a meal and she had the cookies later on. Okay, Van has starved herself all day. So when she comes to eating the cookies, she's like eating them really quickly. She's eating mindlessly. I'm not tasting them. I'm just getting a high. And then I've also got in my mindset that cookies are bad for me. I shouldn't really eat them. They're not on my diet plan. So I will end up eating more. And this is the relationship with food that we have to manage. And it's not as simple as saying, this is how we do it. It's not. It requires professional support because, you've tried to get it under control and it hasn't. And it just requires support from people like Ilva and myself to get it under control. So this is why, Ilva, I don't talk about calories. I don't talk about good or bad food. And I don't give people diet plans. I'll say, right, what do you eat? Okay, what do you think would be a healthier choice? Okay, how can we make it a healthier choice? Because if we try and change someone's eating patterns completely, they're not going to be able to stick to it. It's just like going on another diet. The only time I will tell my patients to follow a diet is the one pre-surgery for the liver reduction and the healing phase. And again, that's all about textures because we need to heal the stomach. But after that, it's about adapting what you eat and for you to then start learning to make healthier food choices. But I'm not going to make you do it. You will automatically start to do it because I break down that relationship with food that we have and we start looking at your triggers. The more I tell you to do something, the more you may not know why you need to do it. So explaining the reason why you need to make these healthier choices makes a massive difference rather than just being told you've got to do X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think the psychology is the same for me. So, but still there are out those recommendations for certain calorie counting after the surgery, and it's so hard. And
I know, and that's why
because the food is not only calories, so there's so many to learn about every product, every nutritional values. You have to understand what vitamins, minerals your body needs to produce our hormones, enzymes to work properly, to make the bloodstream work properly, to add everything, all elements you need.
You can talk all about that, but that's great for us to know. It's too complicated for a patient to understand. What's important is that the patient understands balance, using a plate to balance their meals. And I know if they're following those rules with balancing their meals, they're going to get all the nutrition that they need. They need to take their supplementation. Yes, they need to stay hydrated and they need to eat slowly. So just keeping things as simple as possible rather than saying you need X number of calories, you need to do this, you need to do that. And, you know, a lot of your patients will ask me, how many calories should I be eating? Even mine do. And I'll turn around and say, I don't know. And they go, oh my God, I need to know. And I said, well, how many years have you been counting calories? And they'll say, forever. And I go, well, has it worked? No. And I go, well, why do you want to worry about knowing how many calories you have now? All I know is that you're going to eat a lot less. How many calories you need might be 1,000 calories. It might be 1,500 calories. I have patients that are on 2,000 calories. It all depends on what you're eating before and how much weight you've got to lose. So it will be different for every patient. But if you can follow the rules of eating off a smaller plate and balancing your meals correctly, you won't go too wrong. It's the eating in between the wrong types of food that starts to cause the problem, and the mindset. It's not about calories in, it's not about calories out. If it was that simple, we wouldn't need bariatric surgery. It's about getting that nutrition right at a balance for that patient.
And what about the protein? So it's still recommended to have like certain amount of protein a day, also for everybody, but also more especially for the bariatric patients. So it's still counting again. So isn't it the same way that you...
I know what you're saying, but everybody's nutrition now. I know surgeons give out these guidelines of eating 110 grams of protein a day. Where have they got that figure from? You know, if you eat too much protein, you could actually damage your kidneys. So I work along with that third of a side plate to have as your protein balance, okay? And I would probably work out how much protein that patient needs. Not always, because if they're eating that third of a side plate and maybe having high protein snacks, and I know they're aiming for about 80, maybe 90, all depends at the weight that that patient is in. And this is where the bespoke advice comes in, whereas rather than just saying, you need to eat 110 grams, I really disagree with that, unfortunately, because, you know, if a patient has diabetes, they may have problems with their kidneys. And by just saying, you've got to eat 120 grams of protein or 100 grams of protein could actually be detrimental to their health. We know by the patient having, and we know, and the evidence tells us, a third of a plate protein at least twice a day and high protein snacks between your meals. Yes. So yes, I understand they need to be having a certain amount of protein, but that needs to be worked out according to their actual weight rather than a random figure being given to them. So I always say, as a rule of thumb, You need to be having a third of a side plate at least twice a day, and probably, if you're hungry, have high protein snacks. But when I take a diet history, I will know straight away if they're eating enough protein or not. And the density of the protein is really important in helping you feel satisfied. And if you're not satisfied, it might mean that you need to have a softer protein choice so you can eat that bit more protein in your diet. But yes, protein is really, really important. Definitely.
Yes. Yes. Oh, so many questions actually. So to speak about this, and I somehow I want to make people understand how to understand their own issues, but I also understand that this is not a general question. So everyone has their own reasons, and they have to find whether they come from from their family, they had to protect something themselves from something happening around in their environment. Someone took care too early for the brothers, sisters, maybe some violence, something happened. So these are so many issues. So everyone has to find their own issues. Why is this happening, and what emotions they're eating with food? Because as we know, this emotional eating, there's nothing to do with food actually. So people can turn also to other.
Yeah, they don't need to do it by themselves, because it's very unlikely that they're going to actually recognize what the problem is. It does require support. You can't just think one day, right, I'm going to find out why I eat emotionally. It's going to be very, very difficult. It's a stream of questions that need to be asked, and for somebody else will see the pattern like myself. And it's very difficult to do it. You can try and really think back. What is it? When did I first start dieting? Can I remember why I started dieting? And how did it make you feel? There's so many questions to ask, and you may struggle to do that as a patient just on your own. Okay. But you can certainly try. You can certainly try. But you're right, Ylva. There's so many things why we do what we do. And, support from yourself or I might be the way forward to finding out what those triggers are. Yeah.
Yes. And what do you think? Yeah, you've been telling already about dieting. So there are keto diet, paleo diet, intermittent fasting, everything is out there, and everyone seems to be, because I'm reading so much also, even in my social media, I'm getting all advertising from all the world about these issues, because I was reading a lot of internet, and I'm also studying, learning everything. So, and everyone seems to be so sure, and how not to get confused in all this world. Why keto? So because they have like scientific approvals for this, why this is right, and why paleo diet is right. So they make like everything clear for you when you read for this one type of diet. But if you read different types already, then you get confused. Why maybe it's right to become vegan. So how not to get confused in all this?
I think what you're trying to ask me is, what do I think about diets? Well,
yes,
I want to start with.
I know what you think.
And you're trying to get me all this information, and we'll go through that.
Yes.
So, well, the first thing is what does diet mean? Now, to me, it means eating eating nutritious food. I want to know what you're eating. But to you, or maybe your patients or members, it may mean restriction. They can't eat certain foods. It might mean less calories. It might mean less food. Diet might mean, oh God, it's boring. It's tasteless. Diet might mean keto, intermittent fasting. Yeah. So diet means different things to different people. Okay. What you have to remember is dieting has a beginning and an end. So you start a diet and then you finish a diet. But what happens when you finish the diet? You start to put the weight back on. And
definitely.
Yeah, so you'll put the weight back on, and you might put even more on. So, for me, it's not about dieting. It's about eating a healthy diet to what you're eating before. So it's all about being relative. So let's say if you ate a burger every day, every week. So if I said to you, well, let's just cut out 2 burgers a week, that would be a healthier diet. It's not a perfect diet, but we're working towards making small changes. So eating a healthier diet most of the time and ensuring you're making lifestyle changes you can keep to is more likely to lead to long-term weight loss. Now, something like keto or paleo, now you're going to start on it and then you're going to stop it. So what's going to happen? You're cutting something out. You know, in keto, you're cutting out carbs. So what's going to happen? Just like another diet, you're going to start craving those carbs. So as soon as you feel that you need to eat chocolate or you need to eat bread, mentally you're going to think, oh, I've blown the diet. So you're going to have a binge on bread and chocolate and all the carbs that your body, because your body will start to crave the energy after a while. So when you do things like keto or intermittent fasting, you know, it's all about finding a method that works for you. So everybody is unique. So some people will find they can do, so I would say low carb is better than keto because you're still having carbs. We're just reducing the portion size at some of your meals, so you're going to lose weight. But you can make that a way of life, and that's what, for me, diet is about habit. It's a lifestyle. Diet isn't about dieting. It's about making it a lifestyle. So you do it day in, day out. It becomes a habit. So Ilva, you said you can't eat fries, you know, burgers. You can't eat foods like that because you become unwell. And that's because you're not dieting. You've made a lifestyle choice and your body is now used to eating in that certain way. So your body loves to accept the nutritious foods that you enjoy. But it doesn't mean you can't eat unhealthy food. So if you wanted a burger or if you wanted chips, now I have an 80-20 sort of guideline. So I would say with anything that you do, whether it's in life, your diet, your activity, if you are consistent 80% of the time, then 20% of the time, enjoy the things that you enjoy. So it might be food, it might be dancing, it might be a drink, it might be something. But, you know, as long as you are consistent most of the time, you will get results. And it's all about balance. So am I a believer in dieting? No, I'm a believer in lifestyle change and making habits that you can keep to. Because if I gave you, right, bariatric surgery, right, I'm going to put you on a keto diet because you're at a weight stall or you're gaining weight. You're going to be able to do it for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month. But then what's going to happen? You're going to crave the carbs and then you're going to binge and then we're going to be back at square one. Whereas what would be better is that you have a dietary assessment and I look, why are you doing, what are you doing? Is it something because you're snacking a lot? Why are you snacking a lot? You know, is it because it's something emotional? Is it a habit that you've created? So that's what we need to look into. So diets don't work, but finding a unique method, a lifestyle change that's going to work for you does work.
Yes, absolutely. I agree 400%. So I'm trying to not to use even the word diet. I think it's like so worn out, and so it's used and not very in as the idea. The word diet means this your what you eat.
That's right.
But in the society, so the word diet was used in so many, like not so healthy meaning. So I think we have to avoid to use the word diet and
just healthier foods. How do you feed your body?
Nutrition, healthy nutrition for your body. So I think that's the wider understanding, and that's not putting the pressure on your brain. So that
it's important to say, you know, you're not dieting, because like I said, it's dieting is the word that we need to ban. Diet, like I said, is going to mean very different, you know, means different words to Ilva and I, but it might mean something very different to a member or somebody that's dieting. Yeah,
absolutely. So I had also a question how to establish this healthy relationship with food, but we're also already discussing all the time. This is all about the relationship with food. Also, it sounds not so like familiar maybe in daily routine. So what is the relationship can be with people and so, but what's the relationship with food? So
How do you establish? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, when you've been dieting and struggling with your weight, I believe you'll need some help. Someone like myself or Ilva. Okay, speak to us. And it's best. If you don't have support, what you've got to do is you need to start understanding hunger and fullness. When you've been dieting for all these years, I believe the starting point is to understand when should you start eating and when should you stop eating, because you've relied on a meal plan to tell you when you should eat. At work, you might rely on a set lunchtime, and that tells you, right, it's 12 o'clock, you have to eat, and you might not be hungry. You might rely on calories. Well, I've got 300 calories, so I know what I can eat, So I really do think, the starting point is understanding hunger and fullness. When you've been dieting for many years, you rely, so that's the best place to start, is checking in. Eat when you're hungry and stop when you're satisfied. So they're called hunger and satiety cues. So you need to learn how to do that, okay? And when you do start to understand to eat when you start, and people will be really scared to do this because they've lost touch with knowing when they should be eating, because they've relied on these diets for so long. But starting with your hunger and satiety cues is the best starting place. I'll give you an example. Ilva, let's say, you needed to go for a wee. Okay. Would you tell yourself, oh, it's not 12 o'clock, it's not lunchtime, so I mustn't go for my wee? You would go for your wee, correct? If you needed
Yes.
to go for a pee, you would go.
Yeah.
I would. If it was I had to go for a wee, I would go and wee. Okay. Now, when you're hungry, you might turn around to yourself and say, well, on my diet plan, it says that I've got to eat at 1 o'clock and I can only eat 200 calories, but I'm absolutely starving. So what are you going to do? Can you see how people have started to rely on these diets to tell them when to eat and how much they should eat? What we really need to go back to is the true basics of hunger. And people are scared of being hungry, but it's so important to feel hunger. A lot of people that are overweight, when I speak to them, they say, Van, I never feel hungry. And I'll say, right, okay. Now, is that because you constantly are grazing all day? And they go, yeah, I do. And I go, well, if you're constantly eating, even if it's small amounts frequently, how are you going to feel hungry? And all of a sudden it's a light bulb moment. And they're like, oh, I've never thought of it that way. I just couldn't understand why I was overweight and I was never hungry. I go, because what you're doing is you're constantly eating because you've got this fear of hunger.
Oh, why is this feeling of fear? So
Right.
that's the thing also, that people are scared to feel hunger. Why?
Yes.
This is like a normal, nice feeling actually, because then you eat with satisfaction later, with the greatest satisfaction, and you appreciate your food when you eat. But why people are scared of this hunger?
Because
so
they
what is this psychologically?
So it might be that, when they were younger, maybe, they weren't allowed to be hungry. They weren't allowed to ask for food. Maybe they didn't have enough food, so they learned to starve. When you've been on a diet for many years, you starve yourself. So you unlearn the process of feeling hunger. So a lot of it stems from there. So a lot of the people that we will see will not feel, they'll have that fear of being hungry. So it might be that they were taught to snack a lot. Okay. It's just habits that they have from early childhood. And sometimes it can be scary, feeling that hunger means that there's no food in the house. Oh my God, what are we going to do?
In today's world, it's crazy because the food is everywhere.
You've got to remember, weight can be due to socioeconomic issues, with how much money there is in that family, and so people they might just eat little and often because they fear they're going to get hungry. It's just a habit. It's a habit that you create, and it's broken down. And people think being hungry is scary. It's a negative feeling. Like I said, when you're young, If you cry, you may not even be crying because you're hungry. You might be crying because you've hurt your foot, you've hurt your toe. What does your mum do to make you quiet? Food, gives you food. And it just, and what she's doing is she's using food as a distraction from the pain.
That's not right, yeah.
Yes. But we don't, as mums, we don't do it to be bad. We do it because we're so busy being mums. We've got to cook, clean, work. We're trying to do everything. But what we know, if we give that child that is crying, not because they're hungry, if we give them food, they'll be quiet. So can you see, we might be using food as a distraction. So that becomes a learned behavior, right? You know, I'm bored, or, you know, I'm in pain, right? Mum taught me that if I'm in pain or I'm bored, I eat food. So that's why you never, and I don't think, you know, not being hungry is intentional. It just becomes a habit. People don't know what hunger is, but I completely agree with you. Having that feeling of hunger is actually a nice feeling, because then you look forward to having your meal.
Absolutely.
And then you also need to understand when to stop. You know, some people like to stop eating, so they feel overly full, they feel uncomfortable, they have to undo the zip on their trousers or skirt, you know, or they feel really bloated or feel sick, and they may think that is the point to stop eating, but it isn't. You have to stop well before then, you know, and that takes time. And you know, you can time yourself. Your meal should last 20 minutes, and that's one of the things that we say after weight loss surgery: slow down, eat mindfully. 20 minutes is how long it takes for the brain and the stomach to engage in that satisfied feeling.
Oh, it's good. So I think it's very long already. So I think we have to finalize. Can we make some conclusion about emotional eating, psychological things?
Yeah.
I think
the best place to start, if you have, and you might not know that you've got it. I had a woman on my course, and she thought she wasn't a big emotional eater. She was a massive emotional eater. So you might not think that you have a problem. So look at your hunger cues. Are you eating when you're not hungry? Okay. So I would say the best starting place is look at when you are eating and when you stop eating. Try and eat around a 20-minute window. Okay. If you notice that you're binging or labeling foods good and bad, try and eat mindfully. So eat slowly. Don't watch the TV when you're eating. We know there's evidence. Research tells us that people that sit down and eat and enjoy their food and are not distracted are slimmer than people that are standing up, eating on the go, eating in the car. Okay, and that's because when you eat mindlessly, you don't taste your food. So maybe mindful eating slowly, tasting your food, sitting down, eating off a smaller plate are probably the best places to start. And do one thing at a time, because if you are overwhelmed, you will give up. You will feel like you're failing. So set a goal, and your first goal might be, I am only going to eat when I am hungry. Now, if you are hungry 6 times a day, go with it. Eat some food 6 times a day, because then a week later, you might recognize, actually, I don't think I'm really hungry. It's a habit. So then you could tell yourself, right, I am going to aim to eat 3 meals a day. And I'm going to check in when I am hungry and when I am satisfied. Then 2 weeks later, think about, slowing down, try and do mindful eating, but do one stage at a time. If you try and do everything at once, you'll feel overwhelmed and you won't do it. You feel you can't do it. So start with maybe checking in with your hunger and satiety, then making sure you're having your 3 meals a day and only having snacks if you need protein or if you are physically hungry. And then work on the mindful eating slowly, but step by step. There's so much, Ylva, I don't even know.
I know. And but I think the main thought is that all this is very important for everyone, and we have to make our time to prepare our meals and to prepare our plans for a week or for a few days or for at least for one day. So we have to cook and we have to think. This is a big part of our lives, because the food we're eating is a fuel for our bodies, and if we want to live healthy, so we have to be conscious about what we put in. So I think this is the main thing. So to understand that it's very important, and it takes effort, and it takes time every day and week by week and month by month and year by year, while you're alive and living. So it's not like a campaign for one week or for 2 weeks. So that's a lifetime process that you have to learn. You have to learn about your body, about yourself, and it really takes time and effort too. And it's not the easy way out of planning your meals and foods. Well, okay, one day it's okay, you didn't have time or something, but mostly it really takes a lot of time and effort to prepare and cook healthy meals.
It is. It's about investing in you, and I completely agree. Prepping and planning, checking in with your hunger and satiety, aiming to just eat 3 meals a day, and identifying if you're eating between your meals, if you are hungry, and if you are, is it because the other meals haven't been balanced? So there is so much that's involved. And this is why people struggle, because they can feel overwhelmed. So one step at a time. Once you get through that first hurdle, then move on to the next and the next and the next. And before you know it, you would have created a whole new habit and a whole new lifestyle. So weight loss is all about lifestyle changes, not being on a diet.
Yes. Golden words. I think we can finish with that, and I would love to continue. It's very interesting in so many issues, but it's very long, also hard for people to listen to everything. And I hope we can make another time again, and so see you next time. And I'm finishing now, and thanks for everyone. I know many will be watching also in the evening. It's a working time. And so, but it's okay. It stays on the Facebook group. Everyone can see it later on. So good. Thank you, Van, for joining and discussing.
Thank you for inviting me. It's lovely to see you.
Yes.
Everybody stay safe.
Yes. Okay. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.